Welcome to our first show of La Política Latina. The purpose of this show is for myself, John Goya, and my co-host, Georgina Ortega,
Hello.
to give the Latin community in the United States information that is today not being given, either by the conservative media to the Latin community, and definitely not by the liberal media. So we are your buffer, your information buffer. Our goal today is to talk about two very important subjects to the Latin community and how it affects us. The first one is the sequestration and the truth about the sequestration. And the second one will be the true unemployment. So with that, Georgina, let's talk about the sequestration and how it affects us, the Latin community.
Well,
what do you think about the sequestration?
I guess I asked myself, how can a 2.3% change in our national budget, meaning reduction, could actually change my life so completely that we are kind of like, when I listen to our legislators, we're preparing for the end of the world. So I think about it and I go, what can make such a difference?
Well, and that's
how
a good
it can
question.
affect my life. And, you know, I'm very, very involved emotionally into this because I see what an incredible uprising is causing all around, so that people are not sitting, especially our Hispanics, are being scared and saying, how is this really going to affect my day-to-day life?
Well, you know what? It's sad. It's sad, but the reality is, when you look at our general budget and you look at it as 100 pennies, and you say that 2.3%, Georgina, basically what we're doing is we're taking 2 pennies out of this huge budget. When you look at this huge budget that equals $85 billion, this is $4,165 billion. This is what this is, $4,165 billion.
Okay.
Now,
okay, I see that.
So basically, when our president tells us these horrible things, he's really lying to us. He's lying to, forget about Americans, he's lying to the Latin community. Because this is like if you and I are at home and we tell our family, you know, we make $4,265 a month. And I tell my partner, you can't go do the nails, you can't go do the hair, you can't go, because we got to cut 2%. So we got to cut $85 out of our money. That still leaves us with $4,165. I think the Latin community needs to understand in smaller numbers, because we all do. Because when you think of $1 trillion, $4 trillion, think about carrying the Empire State Building on your back, but not one. Think about carrying 20 Empire State Buildings. But yet, the president is affecting the Latin community with these 2 cents. It's his call. How do you think that's happening? How do you think he's affecting us?
Well, I think that, for one thing, it's creating a lot of fear.
A lot of fear.
You know, which affect the way that businesses are going to be investing in labor.
That's right.
And a lot of our Hispanics are really suffering already. We have one of the major numbers in unemployment.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that lately.
That's how it's going to be affected. So actually, the budget itself hasn't hurt us as much as the information that we're getting, the propaganda that we're getting about what can happen. The other thing too that I noticed is that when you look at a chart of where the budget was and is projected, should we have not implemented or get to implement, because it's yet to happen, this 2.3% change. It's barely nothing.
It's nothing.
It almost, if you don't put it on the chart with 2 different colors, you wouldn't even tell the difference.
You wouldn't. But you know how it is impacting us? And this is the scary part. These 2%, the president has decided to do very, very dangerous things for us. And I'll tell you why. He's released 3,000 illegal prisoners. Now, if you look at the percentage of illegals in this country, the media makes us believe that they're all Hispanics. They're not. Out of those 3,000, if the average is contained properly, 1,650, give or take, plus or minus, maybe 10 or 15, are Latinos. Now let's say when those illegals were caught, they were caught because they were doing something illegal in this country. Exactly. They did something wrong. Or else illegals, no matter whether you're Latino, Vietnamese, Cambodian, Persian, from Western Europe or Eastern Europe, they're not thrown in jail. So where do those 1,650 Latinos are going to go? They're going to go back into the Latino communities.
Exactly.
Where they're not working, they have no subsistence. So what's going to happen to these people? Are some of them going to turn to crime? Are some of them going to steal from our own people that are hard-working people? The answer is yes. So the president is affecting us by releasing these people into our communities where the crime rate is already high.
So again, what you're still talking about is the fact that there's more danger to our community on the fear of what will happen with the budget reduction than there's actually issues that have to do with how the services are going to be provided to our community. That's interesting. 2.3%.
I know.
2.3%.
And the other thing,
it's kind of like it's kind of dictating how we're really going to run our country. Because the other issue that I wanted to ask you about too is the fact that at some point our president had the option of deciding which services he would think are better to be cut and less damaging than others. He had that option to go to the different agencies and whatever, and all of us know that there's much duplication in services in this country because there's very poor oversight. So why isn't that, if he's so concerned about the children that might not have any food, the teachers that will be cut, and all those things, why isn't that he allowed the people who are more educated and informed on how to make the cuts less damaging, make those decisions?
Well, once again, it's called fear, and it's called uncertainty. And unfortunately, our president is doing nothing different than some of the fearmongers around the world. When you look at the other cuts that he's making that is affecting the Latino communities, why do a lot of Latinos go into the armed forces in this country? I mean, you have family that are in the armed forces.
Yes.
I know for a fact.
Very proud of being there.
Very proud. I'm very proud of your own nephew who's today serving, on foreign soil to protect our country. And I spoke to him before he left on his last tour, and he said that one of the things he went to do is he loved this country, and he was dreaming about coming back to the United States and getting a better education with the GI Bill. Well, today, with this 2 measly percent, 2.3 to be exact, the entire GI educational bill is being cut. Now, that's going to affect the Latino community tremendously. And it's going to affect the immigrant community huge. In fact, it's more powerful than the DREAM Act, because a lot of young men and women go into our armies that are illegal in this country, that have been voted by their parents, so they can become citizens of the United States because they've served in the armed forces, and a lot of them do an excellent job.
Yes.
And now when they come out, they're not going to have the same rights that they've had for the last 150 years, which is have a GI Bill. So this 2% the president has cut, which is going to affect the Latino community.
Now, let me ask you something. You said something very interesting. Okay, so they're going to cut the benefits to those that go overseas and put themselves in harm's way to defend our country, to defend our freedom, to defend our ability to make these kinds of choices about how we're going to spend our wealth in this country. But that is very much in contrast with the kind of things that our legislature approves and our president things that are necessary, even though we have to make this 2.3 cuts. And this is very interesting what I found out. Bo, do you know who Bo is?
No,
you don't even know who Bo is.
I have no idea who Bo is.
But Bo is the president's dog. The president dogs travels in an armed car with guards to Petco on a regular basis.
Are you
now,
serious?
I am serious. This is a documented. This is not made up. And so my question is, if the president loves Bo so much, and he lives in the White House, why can't he have someone live there for a lot less money and take care of his pet, rather than having to have the taxpayer pay for something that they wouldn't even dream of doing? That's another thing.
I know. I watch Blessing every other week, and I only take him to Petco once every 3 because it's so expensive.
Yeah. And the other thing too that I found very interesting is that on our budget, we have budgeted money from the federal government for Chinese prostitutes to learn how to hold their liquor. Okay. That's one.
So,
we have another one.
All this money is going for federal prostitutes. By the way, I love dogs, but Bo is now part of our budget.
Yeah, part of their budget.
I love it.
And then also, we have another program in Morocco to help Moroccan women
really
learn how to do basket weaving.
That's it. I think that I'm having my little coffee here, and I don't want to get any sicker. Anyway, Georgina, we got to cut. But I think that we've shown the issues here on sequestration, how it affects us, the Latino community. Mm-hmm. I think you've done a great job of showing us how we're sending Bo to become beautiful, and we're teaching women Moroccan women on how
make clay pots.
How to make clay pots.
And we're going to give them an increase in funding, 8% yearly.
Oh my God! And they've been doing it for 4,000 years, but Obama has to teach them how to do it.